Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here for Here to Stay TV, powered by Bridge Street. Of course, we're at the Corporate Housing Providers Association annual meeting in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And instead of being outside enjoying myself, I'm here covering all the news you need to know. And I have Wendy Galati, and she's with HighStreet Accommodations. Wendy, got to tell you, so interesting. We spent a lot of time talking about Europe and the United States, for example, but we're not talking about Canada enough. And you folks deal with it up there. You've got an interesting business model. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, we are a corporate housing provider, and we operate out of Vancouver, so we're a small regional firm. But more to the point, I think it's how we do business.
Right.
So how we get our inventory is a big part of the differentiator between working in the US and even in Europe for that matter, where they have an abundance of property management or developments where they can go in and say, I need 12 units here for 6 months, et cetera, et cetera. They have furniture rental.
Right.
Wouldn't that be fun to have?
So you're really, it seems like, farther behind, because you're actually going out and sourcing all of the apartments if someone says to you, hey, we need X number of them.
Absolutely, and we do it one by one, owner by owner,
Woo.
building by building. Oh yeah, no, it's a good time. That's why we're so social. But more to the point, we don't have the availability of things like furniture rental.
Right.
So not only do we have to source an apartment, but then we have to go out and buy furniture,
Right.
look to amortize that furniture, et cetera, et cetera. And then just the whole logistics of how do you get a team of, I don't know, housekeepers
Right.
to service 10 apartments in a day when they have to travel miles and miles between each individual unit.
Well, that's definitely a challenge. I picture you at IKEA at about 3 a.m. is what I see.
We do a little bit, I got a VIP parking spot there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting that you do it that way, but I have to assume with all the changes that we're seeing in the business that things might change a little bit for you and your life might become a little bit easier in the coming years.
Well, I think that's true, and I think that comes down to unit availability. So, with some of the disruption in the last couple of years, we will remain nameless.
Yep.
I think people are, first of all, more accepting of the kind of alternative accommodation. It's not so scary. There's no boogeyman under the bed. But also for us, in a condominiumized environment, we have an ability to go out and source individual owners that kind of already get it. So it's not like we have to say who we are and start off a conversation by explaining what we do or don't do. They're kind of on board with that because they can relate to it a little bit better.
Right. Now, as you see more development taking place in places like Vancouver, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, for example, is it fair to say that these developers are becoming more sophisticated and saying, oh, I could dedicate some of these to more of the alternative accommodations world if I can't immediately sell those rooms to an owner?
That may happen in markets outside of Vancouver, but with our real estate pricing and how crazy that market looks, and even when we say it sort of flatlines, we're still talking about ROI for the individual owner, so it looks a little bit different. Developers think a little bit different in Canada.
Right.
Currently. Ideally that happens, let's hope that's the case, but currently they're looking at the cost of real estate, and it's sold before the drawings are made. So,
wow.
Yeah, so the real estate market obviously impacts us a great deal on how we can do that. Hopefully in the future, people will, there'll be more product availability, and as a result of that, we may have a market that looks a little different.
Fascinating, interesting business model from the good folks at HighStreet, and I think the lesson to be learned here is let's go build some buildings up in Vancouver. So for Wendy and myself, Glenn, thanks for watching Here to Stay TV.
Thank you.